If you didn't know that you can melt walls with blue fire or that bubbles hide a secret in their eyes, you might want to keep watching this video.
Say my name. Iceberg. You're goddamn right.
Ocarina of Time is without a doubt one of the most influential games in video game history and one of the best games of all time. As a reward to my current and future subscribers, here it is, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Iceberg. L is real. This entry refers to an illegible writing that originally appeared in Super Mario 64 on a statue of a power star in the courtyard at the back of Peach's castle. What's intriguing is that nobody knows for sure what it says. Some people think it says L is real 2401, while others read it as Eternal Star. The reason why it's on this iceberg is that the same texture appears in Dodongo's cavern in Ocarina of Time. The sign reads, Giant Dead Dodongo. When it sees red, a new way to go will be open. Song of Storms. Link's experience with the Song of Storms is known as a bootstrap paradox. The Windmill Man teaches adult Link the song because of his fury at the damage young Link brought by playing it. After traveling back in time, young Link uses that knowledge to cause the damage that led to the Windmill Man's fury. Therefore, Link couldn't have learned the song if he hadn't played it to the Windmill's Man in the past. Ura Zelda. Ura Zelda was a Nintendo 64 DD expansion disc designed for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. It would mainly have the same content as the original Ocarina of Time, but with redesigned, more difficult dungeons akin to a second quest. However, due to the failure of the 64DD peripheral, the game was never released. It wasn't until 2002 that the game was finally released in a bonus disc in the shape of Ocarina of Time Master Quest. This game would also become available in Ocarina of Time 3D after completing the regular game. Do you want to hear what I said again? This refers to a very annoying part of Ocarina of Time. Whenever you encounter Keipora Gaibora and read what he has to say, he asks you if you want to hear what he said again. The answer is set to yes by default, which has made lots of players lose their patience. Dying Soldier. Also known as the Back Alley Soldier, he can be found in the back alley of Castletown, right before taking the 3 spiritual stones to the Temple of Time. He recognizes Link as the boy from the forest that Princess Zelda was waiting for. He mentions that Link should take the Ocarina of Time received from Princess Zelda and hurry to the Temple of Time. After this one interaction, the wounded soldier will pass away. Ocarina of Time 1.0. Ocarina of Time has gone through some changes between versions. The most significant ones are Ganondorf's blood, which went from red to green, which I think was a bad decision as it now looks like puke. And also the Fire Temple music, which has a very interesting background. More on that later. Unicorn Fountain. The Unicorn Fountain was a place in the beta version of Ocarina of Time, where Link supposedly would get the Triforce and the Sword Beam attack. This place was intended to act as a fairy fountain too, capable of healing Link, but it was removed from the final game for unknown reasons. Zelda 64. Zelda 64 refers to the early version of Ocarina of Time, which was drastically different from the final product. Here's a list of some of the beta elements. Medallions would work in conjunction with Link's bow and arrow to have specific effects. Link's Hylian shield and Master Sword had different designs. Link was seen to obtain the Triforce. The Great Fairies had more of a crystal appearance. You could activate a first-person camera view similar to that of Super Mario 64. Link was seen having a way more fluid motion when swinging his sword. It was planned for the game to feature permanence in regard to the player's actions. If the player were to cut a tree, cut some grass for rupees, destroy a pot, or even leave footprints on the ground or sand, these things would remain there for the remainder of the game. The footprints would remain and not vanish, pots would not respawn, cuts on trees would stay until the end of the game, and grass would not regrow. Fire Temple music. This is a classic one. When entering the Fire Temple in the earliest versions of the game, the music is not that different from the later releases of the music until 40 seconds into the song, where you can listen to a Muslim recitation from a chapter in the Quran. These chants were taken from a sampling CD known as Voice Spectral Volume 1. Most probably, Nintendo wasn't aware of the meaning, so they included it in the game, until in later releases they realized the religious implications and removed it. Frozen Zora's Domain. According to Sheik, the ice in Zora's domain is caused by an evil curse caused by Morpha, and the only way to restore Zora's domain to its natural state is by destroying the monster. However, after we do that, Zora's domain remains frozen. This led to people coming up with ways to unfreeze it, but if we take a closer look at the end credits, for some reason, Zora's domain indeed came back to normal. Arwing. In Ocarina of Time, an unused enemy Arwing can be found by modifying the game's data, either by hacking or using a cheat device. When Link enters an area with an Arwing, a small cutscene will play. The Arwing will then proceed to fly around the area and attack Link with its lasers. The Arwing was used to test the flight patterns of Volvagia. Shark. When diving into the pool inside the lakeside laboratory, a motionless shark imprisoned behind bars can be seen at the bottom. This is not explained by the lake scientist, nor is it elaborated on at any point in the game. Some people have speculated that it was put there in reference to the negative view of the usage of cheat codes through devices such as the Game Shark. The Running Man. This is in reference to an infamous NPC known as the Running Man. He challenges Link to a race from Gerudo Valley to the Lost Woods. Once you get to the goal, in spite of your efforts, the Running Man will be there claiming victory by a second. Crazy methods surfaced on the internet, such as challenging the Running Man, then going to the Temple of Time and traveling 7 years into the past, going to the Lost Woods and waiting for 7 in-game years, or 7 days in real life. This of course was false, as nowhere in the game's code is there a text about the Running Man being defeated. Ice Temple. For the water medallion, you would expect to see a drop of water as its symbol, but instead it's a snowflake. It is believed that this is the case because originally there was supposed to be an ice temple. We can see this concept developed in the ice cave, which, as its name indicates, is a frozen dungeon, although it's not as big as any of the other temples. Although this might sound just like a theory, it's supported by the fact that the water temple mini dungeon in Ganon's castle shares the same elements as the ice cave, and it doesn't resemble the water temple at all. Sky Temple. I'm not quite sure where this myth originated, but most probably it was because of a couple of pictures from Zelda 64 in which we can see Link in some sort of tall tower. It's incredible how different Zelda 64 was from Ocarina of Time. Link's house drawing. This is shown at the beginning of the game, right outside Link's house. Drawn on the wall, there's a depiction of somebody fighting a monster. In the beginning, I thought it was Link's final battle against Ganon, but given the shape of the monster, It's most likely Link fighting King Dodongo. This is very strange, as the drawing depicts an event yet to occur at that point. As far as I know, the only character who likes to make these drawings is the Skull Kid, who later would be Majora's Mask host. I wonder if the Skull Kid was hiding something we don't know from the very beginning. Corruption in Hyrule. When we think about the Kingdom of Hyrule and the way it's constantly fighting against evil, we don't really think about how honest the people that make up the army are. A good example is the guard at the entrance of Hyrule Castle that will ask young Link for 10 rupees in order to give him access. If we talk to the guard again, he will tell Link to keep it a secret from everyone. Wind Temple. In a similar way to the water medallion symbol being a snowflake, the Forest Temple shows an engraving of what looks like a fan, referencing wind, which has nothing to do with the temple's theme. Again, this is because the Forest Temple was supposed to be a wind temple. Evidence of this can be seen in another mini-dungeon in Ganon's castle, where we need to use the hoverboots with the help of fans in order to move through platforms. Lynx Earrings. Once Link becomes an adult, or a teenager, we can see Link has earrings. This is odd as Link was asleep for 7 years. Although this doesn't make sense, it is explained in the Ocarina of Time manga that Link gets his ears pierced by Impa, stating that young Shicas get their ears pierced as a symbol of adulthood. The Forest Fortress. Although they are known as temples, some of these sacred places apparently served a different purpose in the past, such as the Shadow Temple, which is clearly a place for torture and execution. The Forest Temple has very unique features that make it resemble a fortress rather than a temple. Look for example at the crenellations on top, spaces where archers would be able to shoot arrows and take cover from enemy fire. There's a theory by Electric Goose from Zelda Universe that states that Link's mother was injured in this place, and taking into account how close the Forest Temple is to Kokiri Forest, she wouldn't make it too far, so she entrusted the Great Deku Tree with Link before she passed away. There are many interesting points about this, so please go check Electric Goose's theory. Sword Beams. Sword beams have been present since the first Zelda game, as well as in other games such as Majora's Mask, in which the fierce deity is capable of shooting sword beams. However, Ocarina of Time is one of the few games that doesn't have this attack. In early stages of development, Link could actually shoot beams, probably after having obtained the Triforce. It's unknown why this attack was removed from the final version. Song of Time blocks. If you've ever played the Song of Time in front of a Song of Time block and thought you just made it disappear or appear, you're not taking into consideration the fourth dimension. That is, you're not thinking about time, as whenever those blocks materialize when you play the Song of Time, that's because you're bringing them from the past 7 years into the future, and vice versa when they vanish. Behind the Waterfall. This is a small secret. In Dodongo's cavern, where you fight Lizalfos, there's a lava waterfall you can go through where a secret chasm lies. There's a recovery heart in it, nothing more, nothing less. Ariana Alemandos. As early as 1998, the same year Ocarina of Time was released, a website called Hyrule, the Land of Zelda surfaced on the internet. This popular website would be the origin of an infamous story that took place in early 1999, with Ariana Alemandos, a Colombian girl, as its protagonist. Falco X, the site's webmaster, received an email from Ariana where she claimed that she had found the Triforce. These claims weren't rare, but what made this story completely different is the fact that she provided very convincing pictures of Link in front of the Triforce and playing an ocarina song nobody knew about, the Overture of Sages, supposedly taught to Link by Roru. Ariana mentioned the steps required to find the Triforce, with the exception of step 2, as she encouraged people to figure it out for themselves. If nobody guessed it right, she would come back after a month to reveal the second step. We need to consider that back in 1999, It wasn't that easy to alter pictures in the way Ariana did, so of course thousands of people would believe her claims. However, in one of her pictures in which Link is playing the Overture of Sages, he is mirrored, and therefore it was a hint that Ariana had altered the images and made a mistake she didn't know how to explain when questioned. In the end, Ariana confessed that everything was made up, and as far as I know, it was never heard from her again. Walking the path is safer. This is not a well-known fact, as most of us have traversed Hyrule Field in straight lines, but if we follow the paths in Hyrule Field at night, no stall children will show up. This is a reference to Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, in which no enemies will show up in the overworld unless you walk in the grass. Lynx Defeat. Most Zelda games have canonically happy endings. However, Ocarina of Time, one of the most iconic Zelda games in the entire franchise, has a canonical ending in which Link is defeated in his attempt to stop Ganon. This event in fact triggers the existence of the timeline where A Link to the Past and the NES Zelda games take place, among others. Leonardo DiCaprio. In the book The Legend of Zelda, Art and Artifacts, it is stated that the design for Link was based on a famous Hollywood actor from the 90s. Yusuke Nakano, a Nintendo illustrator, said that, at that time, if you were to talk about a really good-looking actor, people immediately thought of this guy, so I recall keeping in mind the point of his nose and that strong-willed look in his eyes when I was drawing. Although never directly stated, it is likely that Leonardo DiCaprio was the actor in question. Stonehenge in Gerudos Desert. This is in reference to the entrance of the Spirit Temple, where a megalithic structure is aligned with the sunrise. Mimiris Commercial. Another classic one I remember watching as a kid. This commercial shows Link in Kakariko coming across a chest full of Mirindas. Link takes one and starts drinking it, disobeying the player's inputs. I don't know how common it was back then to see video game characters on TV ads. At least it wasn't in my country. Mark on Tree. Certain enemies in Ocarina of Time can be enormous, but there aren't too many of them in Hyrule Field or the outside. At Lake Hylia, there's a scratch mark left by something gigantic on the central tree of the stage. Some might not remember, but the mark is even bigger than adult Link, so whatever left that mark there had to be bigger than Ganon itself. Probably a giant stall child, but I think that's a stretch. There's no context about who or what could have left that mark. Poe Sisters. The names of the 4 Poe Sisters in Ocarina of Time are the names of the sisters in the book Little Women. This is similar to how carpenters at Gerudos Fortress are named after the Beatles in the German version. Breathable blade traps. A couple of weeks ago I saw an article about a recently discovered trick in which you can freeze the blade traps with ice arrows. Although it's not a well-known secret, I'm sure that some of you watching this video did this when you were kids, so please let me know in the comments. Blue fire melts walls. It's almost a secret to everyone, but for some strange reason, breakable walls such as the ones in Dodongo's cavern can be removed by using blue fire, which can only be obtained in the ice cave. This means that these walls share some properties with red ice, however you cannot break or melt red ice with bombs. Spirit Temple's creepy textures. In certain rooms in the Spirit Temple, you can see humanoid figures with hollow eyes painted on the walls. I don't know if they're supposed to be people or skulls, but it's extremely weird to realize that only a few walls of the temple contain this texture. Who or what they represent and why they are in that specific temple remains a mystery. Ghost drink. Whenever we're thirsty, we don't think about drinking ghosts, but apparently Link has, because it's possible to drink bottled ghosts. They will replenish a single heart, so not a great idea to recover health. The Zora King wants to kiss Link. There are two ways to get the Sora Tunic in Ocarina of Time, by unfreezing the Zora King or by buying the Sora Tunic from the shop. If you get the tunic from the shop and then unfreeze the king, he will notice you have one in your inventory and will instead offer Link a fishy kiss. Super Saiyan Zelda. As far as I know, the N64 has a chip called CIC. If Ocarina of Time detects a chip that is not intended to be present in the console, it will prevent the player from finishing the game at Ganon's castle, but one of the most evident effects is that when Sheik reveals to be Zelda, her hair will be suspended in the air. Bubbles love bombs. If you place a bomb on the ground when facing a bubble, it will fly around the explosive until it blows up. Darunia hates Gerudos. After obtaining all the masks, if Link goes to Darunia and speaks to him using the Gerudo mask, he will say he hates Gerudos. This is probably due to the fact that Dodongo's cavern, where Gorons get their food, was sealed by Ganondorf, who happens to be a Gerudo. Volvagia was Link's friend. In the Ocarina of Time manga, Volvagia's origins are quite different, and it ends up in one of the most heartbreaking moments in the Zelda universe. Child Link purchases a baby Volvagia from the Hyrule town market, intending to set it free. Instead, the small dragon follows Link and befriends him. However, this cute, playful dragon who learned to say Link's name as a baby became the fiery dragon we know as Volvagia, who turned evil due to Ganondorf's control. Link tries to make the dragon remember him, but it's all in vain, and having no choice, Link has to make one of the hardest decisions of his life by ending the dragon's life. The dragon is seen crying on the ground, uttering Link's name before his final moments. This is without a doubt one of the saddest moments of the Zelda franchise. Bubbles Eyes. Same as with the Gerudos Link fights to rescue the carpenters, depending on the tunic you're wearing, the bubble size will match your outfit color, changing between green, red, and blue. Outside view from Link's house. When you see the texture that represents the outside when you're at Link's house, you can see that it doesn't match what you see when you exit the place. For some strange reason, set picture represents the pillars present in the Lost Woods near the entrance that leads to Hyrule Field. This makes me wonder if Link's house was intended to be located in the Lost Woods at some point. H32 Seal 7. A 1997 build of Ocarina of Time was found, and data miners found an icon of the Triforce that fits perfectly in the place where the Triforce symbol is on the quest status screen. What's interesting about this is that the icons for the temple medallions were also found, with the names H34 Seal 1 to 6. If this were obtainable and the Triforce is named Seal number 7, it is possible that even in 1997 the Triforce was still considered to be obtainable at some point. Thank you so much, we made it to 200 subscribers. Thank you everyone for making this dream come true. I hope more people join this channel and one day reach 1k subscribers. Let me know in the comments if you knew all the facts on this iceberg. Have a wonderful day, and please don't forget to hit the like button, as more people will discover my content in this way, and subscribe for more iceberg videos. See you in the next one.